Hail adventurer and welcome to Which Way is North. In this series, I take a look at some fantasy maps that you guys have sent me from your own D&D worlds and tell you how I would improve them. But why listen to me? Well, my name is Ben, aka the Eldritch Cartographer, and I am a professional fantasy cartographer. Yes, apparently this is a job and people will pay you for this. I've done everything from books to board games, but my favourite thing to do is bring to life people's homebrew D&D worlds, and that is the bulk of my commission work. I am a self-taught artist, which means I have absolutely no professional training. So my opinions on this are very much my opinions. I don't want you treating this as some kind of map-making gospel or anything. However, because of my background, I feel I'm actually in a really good place to give you some advice, as I would have gone through many of the mistakes and learning curves that you guys are going to be going through. I try and make these videos as accessible as possible, which means I'm not going to be showing you any crazy art techniques or really advanced level stuff. I just try and show you enough of the basics so that you can get something in front of your players which looks really good and they're really impressed with. But it won't take you 100 hours of practicing art to be able to do. I know how hard it is to learn how to draw, so the advice I'm going to be giving are going to be based off a couple of different criteria. Number 1. I am not here to put down anyone's artistic ability. I've had submissions for this series from all different artistic abilities, from someone who's obviously just drawn their first map to someone who's obviously quite experienced in this level, and I have something to give all of you. And even if you are someone who considers himself to be quite good at art, it doesn't mean that the advice I give to other maps won't apply to yours. I'm not just showing you how to physically draw the map, but also how you can add little bits of immersive detail into them, and how you can make them look more natural or more fantastical. This isn't just about the skill of drawing. This is about how to implement a map into a game as a storytelling device. Number 2. I'm only offering my opinions.
How do you know what's good for me? That's my opinion!
We all have our own styles of map making. So when I'm looking at these maps, I'm not purely thinking about them as a piece of art, I'm thinking about them as a piece of world building and storytelling. So that means there might be something on your map which I don't quite understand, but is actually a really important bit of world building or storytelling or lore for your world. And I might say something about that or have an opinion about that you don't like. And that's fine. It's just an opinion. You don't have to implement it. Please don't hurt me. And 3rd, this is maybe the most important point on this criteria list, so listen. This is a positive space. I don't just mean my room, I mean this channel. I don't want to hear you talking smack in the comments about someone's art. Everyone is here to learn and grow. Someone's had the courage to submit something to me and put their world out there for everyone to see. So help me build a nice community here, and make sure at the end of this video you type out in the comments at least one nice thing about everyone's map. Okay? You two play nicely. With that out of the way, we can get on to the video. I started this series over on my TikTok, but in just a few videos I got so many submissions that I thought, I can't do this as short form content anymore, I'm going to have to come over to YouTube. Which is a great excuse because I've been meaning to start this channel for so long, but YouTube videos just take so long to edit and so much time, and with all my other work going on, it wasn't feasible. Despite it still not being feasible, we're going to do it, because if I don't make the videos, they never will get made, and I will be sad. So, without further ado, let us begin. Our first map today comes from somebody called Ren, who sent me this map quite a while ago, so I'm sorry I've only just got around to it. Hi, I saw your videos on TikTok and wanted to get some feedback on my map, even though I'm still working on it. Hello Ren, pleasure to have you here. I feel like I've made the continent seem way too big, and I've tried to mark an area that says Krabantar. Great Day Krabantor. A heads up, these are obviously people's homebrew worlds with their own spellings and fancy words, so I'm going to get a lot of these wrong. Sorry. I tried to mark the area as Day Krabantor, as a big forest, but it just doesn't quite look right. I also tried to mark the desert with some sand dunes, but it still looks so empty. I don't really know what to do. I'd really appreciate your help. Your videos are awesome. Thank you so much. You literally keep me doing these things when you say stuff like that, so flattery is always accepted. Going off of your first point where you say the map feels too empty. Now, I know this is a work in progress and I'm assuming this isn't everything in your continent, but I would actually say the scale of the continent feels fine. You've got lots of interesting and dynamic coastlines, the continent shape feels natural, it looks really, really good. It does feel very empty, and there is a very simple reason and solution to this. Ren, it is quite empty. Luckily for you, that's a really easy problem to fix. Firstly, we're going to start by populating this map. Now, when people are making maps, the first thing they're thinking about is where all the cool, interesting land features are going to go, and that's obviously very important, and you should definitely be thinking about this. However, the most interesting parts of your D&D games, and the reason your map exists in the first place, is because of people. You said in the start of this email that this is supposed to be a continent, and continents are massive. We're talking populations in the billions, not the millions. Obviously, if you're doing a more kind of medieval style fantasy setting, the population density will be way, way, way less, but there's still nowhere near enough people on this continent. The only exception to this would be if this is a continent which is supposed to have been recently inhabited or vastly unexplored. But my argument with that would be that if this is a map that is massively unexplored, you need to make it look more unexplored because the coastline looks really defined. Let's assume that this is the main populated continent of your world, which I'm assuming it is, considering this is the continent you've decided to focus on for your campaign. Straight away, we're going to add some cities to this map, and already you can see it is feeling a lot more populated. Some over here, one in the mountain, because mountain cities are cool. And even though it's supposed to be quite barren, some in the desert over here. Hey, that's looking pretty good. See, you got this. Don't be too hard on yourself. Right, Ren. Come here. I get you're in the process of world building, we have jobs, we're busy, I know it takes a while. I just wanted to show you that when this map gets filled up, when, you know, no pressure, do it in your own time, but when it does get filled up, you have nothing to worry about. This is gonna look really good. You're onto a winner. It feels empty because you just haven't finished it yet. That's it, dude. We're gonna use a little trick I like to use in my D&D games, and don't tell my players this, but you don't actually have to know what everything is until people get there. De Crabantor sounds a little bit kind of druidic and Celtic to me. Maybe influenced by the Witcher and the Elven kind of races, and Fayish, which kind of links into those groups of people. You mentioned that De Crabantar feels weird. It doesn't, it looks really good. You just haven't got enough forest on the map right now for it to not look weird. It stands out because it's the only one of its type, but I promise you when you've got some more regions like this across the map, it'll look amazing. One thing you can do to break up this massive block of woodland is to add some small little woodlands that kind of peter off at the edges. This just softens the blockiness of the woodland, but without detracting from the fact that it's this massive woodland. Again, this map is going to fill out as you add more and more to it, so don't be afraid as well to leave areas of grassland or desert or places where there actually isn't much going on, as that in itself becomes a feature. And so, just to flesh out the map a little bit more, what we're going to add is interesting features which link to the areas which we're adding them. I'm going off on a limb here. It sounds like Celtic to me, so I'm going to add some stone circles in the general area. I'm symbolising them with this little thing here, but if I was drawing this map, I'd probably do it slightly differently. That's up to you, you're the one drawing it. You can do this all over the map for different terrain features for different places. So for the desert, we're adding an obelisk. You get the idea. Depending on what you're doing, find something which links to your theme in your world, add a special little token. Next, I'm going to show you how to come up with an idea for a culture in a region where you have absolutely nothing planned for this section of the map. People used to believe that the Vikings travelled from Scandinavia across to the rest of Europe because they didn't have access to arable farming land. That theory has kind of been misproven, as it seems to be that there was a massive population spike during the Viking era in Scandinavia, so probably not true. However, That doesn't matter because that's a cool inspiration for a culture that we're going to use in our world. I actually like to draw the terrain on my map first in pencil. You've done the thing where you've started inking it in. I assume this might be being done online, in which case ignore me. Drawing out the terrain features in pencil can sometimes help me come up with cool ideas for cultures and features that I want in different areas depending on what the surrounding landscape is. I'm going to stretch the southern mountains that you've been doing all the way down to here. I want to make this a fjordland because these little peninsulas and the rockiness of the coastline just screams fjordland to me. Again, I don't know what you're planning for this map, this is just me giving you advice. We can then put some interesting little cities down in here, which may be linked to a cool culture that we can come up with. We can have a sea raiding coastal people who live here. In this world, they don't have access to arable farmland. Don't come at me, history buffs, I know my stuff. So they use this hard to reach fjordland area as a base which they launch their attacks on other cultures in this world. Put whatever you want here, this is just how you turn geography into story. I'm going to make it so that one of these mountains is a bit of a landmark. I'm going to call it the Serpent's Jaw. Now I'm going to place a town at the base of this mountain and a little dragon above it because why not? Here comes the fun bit. You are going to go and whatever you decide to call all these places, you're going to write no more than an A4 page on a very brief description of what this place is. But you're not going to go into any crazy detail. I'm assuming your players are playing in this top left part of the map, considering that's the part of the map that you've populated already. You're basically going to create a smoke screen across this map that makes it feel like it's this really bustling and alive world, but you don't need pages and pages of lore about these places until they get there. I actually do it a lot smaller than this. I go region by region, sometimes only doing surrounding towns and populate them as we go. That way I find that my imagination is still really fresh when I come to coming up with interesting designs for my towns and cities, and I'm not burnt out trying to world build an entire continent at the same time. If you were struggling to come up with some ideas for cities, I like to use Mythic. Mythic is a GM emulator and it has some really fantastic roll tables in the back which help you come up with a couple of different random words which describe cities. Sometimes all I need is a word or two on the right roll table in the right combination that just inspires me and sends me off on this tangent. And that's all you need, a very brief 1 or 2 line descriptions of some of these cities that you can flesh out as they become more important in your world. Addressing the rest of the continent, it does still feel empty. I don't know if this setting is supposed to be high or low fantasy, but regardless of that, we can still add some really interesting terrain features. Just something that makes that part of the map more distinctive than just a mountain range or a desert, something that really makes your world feel unique. We've tackled cities and population, we've tackled normal geography, now for fun geography. We should dot a few volcanoes here and there. They're always fun, and you can make an entire story of an island based around the fact that it has a volcano on it or something similar. Not only that, but if this is a high fantasy world, I don't know, I'm sorry, then you should be adding some high fantasy stuff. Some super tropey and easy to implement stuff. Meteorite crater. Floating islands, that's always fun. Massive mountains that are also dragon layers. This is the fantasy trope stuff, guys. I'm not trying to be too imaginative here. I don't want to suggest something that's not going to apply to your world. However, dotting a few things like this around the map, not too many mind, can add some real flair to everything and help to fill up some space that you might not know what to do with yet, but it makes it more interesting than just bare wilderness that your adventurers will inevitably travel through, and rather than having a travel session of, let's fuck all here, you can have a travel session of, oh my god, you come across a dragon mountain. I mean, again, please come up with better ideas than that. Dragon Mountain is awful. I really like making high fantasy settings because I feel like you can do some things with the terrain that you wouldn't be able to get away with in a low fantasy setting that make the world feel really unique and interesting. And because it's high fantasy, they don't even need to make geographical sense sometimes. Depending on the lore of your world, I always like to add some kind of evidence of a past calamity or maybe something that's happened in your world that has evidence within the geography around it. What you're trying to do is tell a story with the environment and not merely just place obstacles in your player's way. We briefly touched on it earlier, but let's touch on it again. You know what I mean. The terrain features don't have to just be geographical. You can create some really interesting cities. I like to call these on my maps pillars of civilization. These are a couple of cities which really stand out from the rest of my cities for whatever reason. Ancient technology, that's always something I use in every single one of my D&D campaigns. I like the idea of floating cities or cities that move. Maybe they aren't magically floating, maybe they are built on a giant mechanical thing that walks around the globe. Or, to go one step further than that, or one step less than that, what about a city that isn't a city at all, but is millions and millions and millions of tents, which is a massive nomadic tribe that just patrols around? It's an interesting idea for a city, it's fun and memorable for your players to visit, it fills up some space on the map. Also, you can fill a map beautifully with realistic geography and the names of cities, but what we're trying to do is inspire adventure. If this was actually a map that you were meant to use to get around, then fair play, it needs to be concise and have a consistent scale and be easy to read. But we're not doing that, we're making a map for a D&D game, and I want to look at your map as a player and be like, oh my god, I want to go there. I don't want to say, yes, this is a map, just something to think about. If a city is buried under the mountains, that's really cool, but how do they get their food? Maybe they need some settlements around them that will supply them with grains and things, but if those trade routes are cut off, that city could be in trouble. Immediately you start getting little story arcs that start forming while you're doing this world building process as well, because maybe the adventurers can come along and help in that situation somehow. I've not mentioned there are no rivers on this map. Now, definitely think about adding rivers. And if you do, please, if you've watched my TikToks, you know that this is my thing. Rivers don't run coast to coast. Rivers run from highlands to lowlands to the sea. Every single time. Oh, but this is a fantasy world. You can do what you want. Yes, okay, this is a fantasy world. You can do what you want. It's going to break my immersion. Oh, what if it's a canal? You're on thin fucking ice, okay? One bonus tip I want to mention for this map, and will also be mentioning for a lot of the others, because I've had a lot of submissions and I've seen it on a lot of them. Border. Compass rosette. Where are they? You don't have to add these at all. They actually don't matter. But just to aesthetically just finish this all off. They really don't need to be hard. I think people get intimidated by the fact that they are like artistic. Genuinely, like my favourite maps of Middle-earth are like, it has like a line as a border. That's it. It's like a box. The whole map's in a box and it leaves about a couple of centimetres to the side to the edge of the paper. That's all you need to do. Compass rosette. Doesn't need to have an intricate design. Just north, south, east, west. Boom. The whole thing's finished. This is a fantasy map. And there we have it. Here is a conceptualized version of what your map could eventually look like. Ren, you're on the right track, and I applaud you for using map building as part of your world building, because I think so often people get the map done last, and I think a map can actually inspire so many stories along the way. I'd be genuinely really interested to see what this looks like when it's all finished. And please remember, everything I'm saying here is meant to inspire you as a DM. I'm not trying to do your work for you. I'm not trying to implement my ideas on top of yours. I'm trying to show you how I go about fancy map making and give you a little kick up the arse. And yes, Ren, I'm calling you out on your procrastination. Sit down and write tonight. If you don't do it tonight, I will find you. And that is this episode of Which Way is North. I hope you've enjoyed it. It took me way longer to produce this than I thought, and I will eventually get quicker at uploading, so please stick with me as this channel grows. It means the world. I will endeavour to do one of these maps every single time I do one of these episodes, which I'm not going to commit to an amount of time these episodes are going to take, because I don't know. I don't want to be caught out by saying, oh yeah, I'll do this every 2 weeks, because inevitably I won't, and then you guys will be mad. So, if you have a map that you would like me to review, then please send it over to this email address, eldritchcartography@gmail.com, and I will try and get around to it at some point. As I said, I've already got quite a lot of submissions for this, but I might be able to get 2 in per episode, maybe 3. I'm not going to commit. Just send it over. I will reply to every single email, and if I can't get around to it, I will at least send you back some feedback and some advice, so please stick with me. I think that about does it for me, so until next time, safe travels, adventurer.